First Contact Fury. Commander Ilara Chen stood frozen on the bridge of the research vessel Athena, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The holographic projection showed Neptune Research Station breaking apart under relentless alien fire. Bright flashes of light marked each impact as strange. Angular ships methodically reduced the station to floating debris. Station integrity at 14%, reported Senior Officer Raj Patel, his voice barely a whisper. Life signs dropping rapidly. Ilara's fingers dug into the padding of her command chair. Just 12 hours ago, she had been sharing coffee with Station Director Marcus at Neptune's observation deck, watching the planet's swirling storms. Now Marcus was certainly dead, along with over 600 scientists, engineers, and their families. The Athena shuddered violently as a piece of debris collided with their shields. Shield status, Ilara demanded, snapping out of her shock. Holding at 67%, Commander, Lieutenant Sophia Kim replied from the navigation console. Her young face was pale with fear, but her hands remained steady. Commander, unknown vessels are changing course. 2 are now heading toward our position. Ilara took a deep breath. The Athena wasn't a military vessel. It was a science ship designed for deep space exploration and first contact scenarios. The irony wasn't lost on her. They had spent years searching for intelligent life beyond Earth, and now that life had found them instead, with weapons blazing and no attempt at communication. All hands, battle stations, she ordered through the shipwide comm. Evasive maneuvers, Lieutenant Kim. We need to put distance between us and those ships. Yes, Commander. The Athena banked hard, its engines straining as Sophia pushed the ship to its limits. Through the viewports, Ilara could see Neptune's azure surface reflecting the explosions happening in orbit above it. Communications Officer Wei, send emergency transmission to Earth Command. Include all sensor data we've gathered on the attacking vessels. Jason Wei's fingers were already flying across his console, transmitting on all emergency channels. Commander, but there's heavy interference. I can't confirm receipt. Another violent shake rocked the bridge as a direct hit struck their aft section. Shields at 43%, exclaimed Sophia. Direct hit to Engine Bay 3. Chief Engineer Navarro's voice crackled over the comm. Commander, we've lost Engine 3. Coolant leak contained, but we're down to 72% thrust capacity. On the tactical display, the 2 alien ships were gaining quickly. Their design was unlike anything humans had ever encountered. Asymmetrical formations of interconnected dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They'll overtake us in 7 minutes at current speed, stated Raj, his tone grim. Ilara looked around at her crew -37 of Earth's brightest scientists and explorers, now possibly the only survivors from Neptune Station. Her mission had been to study the outer solar system and search for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. Nothing had prepared her for this. Science Officer Nakamura, what have we got on these attackers? Dr. Yuki Nakamura looked up from her analysis station, her eyes wide. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database, Commander. Their weapons seem to be some form of directed plasma, but much more focused than our technology can achieve. Their hulls absorb our scanning beams, suggesting advanced stealth materials. She paused. Wait, I'm detecting unusual radiation from their propulsion systems. It matches theoretical models for faster-than-light travel. Ilara's heart skipped a beat. Humanity had achieved limited FTL capabilities only 4 years ago. If these aliens had the same technology. Lieutenant Kim, prepare the FTL drive. Sophia looked back in surprise. Commander, we're still well within Neptune's gravity well. FTL protocols recommend. I know what the protocols say, Lieutenant, but those ships will catch us before we can reach safe distance. Prepare the drive. As Sophia reluctantly began the FTL startup sequence, Ilara turned to her communications officer again. Officer Wei, any contact from Mars colony? They should have detected these attackers. Jason's face paled as he adjusted his headset. Commander, I'm picking up emergency broadcasts from Mars. His voice caught. They're under attack as well. Multiple hostile ships in orbit. Planetary defenses overwhelmed. A stunned silence fell over the bridge. Mars colony held over 3 million people. The tactical display updated, showing new information as the Athena sensors gathered more data. The alien vessels were transmitting between themselves using an unknown language or code. Dr. Nakamura's station automatically began recording and analyzing the transmissions. Picking up a new signal, Jason suddenly announced, It's Earth, Commander. They're reporting unknown ships appearing near lunar base. It's a coordinated attack across the entire solar system. The reality of their situation crashed down on Ilara like a physical weight. This wasn't a misunderstanding or an isolated incident. This was a systematic assault on human civilization. FTL drive charged to 83%, Sophia reported. But Commander, jumping this close to Neptune could tear the ship apart. Ilara watched as the alien vessels closed in, their weapon systems powering up according to the sensor readings. We have no choice, she decided. We need to warn Earth with everything we've learned. Set course directly for Earth. That's against all safety protocols, Sophia protested. This is no time for protocols, Lieutenant. Execute the jump. As Sophia programmed the coordinates, Dr. Nakamura called out, Commander, I've managed to decode part of their transmissions. They're calling themselves the Voidborn, and they're discussing extermination protocols. Another hit rocked the ship, harder this time. Shields at 21%, Sophia warned. We can't take another hit like that. FTL ready, Commander, Sophia announced, her voice shaking slightly. But at this distance from Neptune. Do it, Ilara ordered, her voice leaving no room for argument. Sophia took a deep breath. FTL engaged in 3, 2, 1. The stars outside the viewports stretched into lines as the Athena leaked into faster-than-light travel. The ship groaned and shuddered violently, structural integrity alarms blaring across every deck. For several terrifying seconds, it seemed the ship would tear itself apart. Gradually, the shaking subsided. The Athena had survived the jump. Damage report, Ilara called out, releasing her white-knuckled grip on her chair. Hull breaches on decks 2 and 4, sealed by emergency systems, reported Navarro from engineering. FTL drive strained but functional. We're lucky to be alive, Commander. Ilara didn't feel lucky. She felt sick with grief and anger. Turning to Dr. Nakamura, she asked, What else did you learn from their transmissions before we jumped? Nakamura looked up from her console. Not much, but enough to understand their motives. The Voidborn see us as a threat, not for what we are now, but for what we might become. They've been watching us since we achieved FTL capability. They decided we were developing too quickly, so they attacked without warning. Without any attempt at diplomatic contact, Ilara asked quietly. Yes, it appears to be their standard protocol for dealing with emerging spacefaring species. Ilara turned back to the main view screen, now showing only the streaking lights of FTL travel. Somewhere ahead lay Earth, still unaware of the full scale of what was happening, still unprepared for what was coming. Officer Wei, prepare all our data for immediate transmission once we exit FTL, she ordered. Everything we've recorded about their ships, weapons, and communications. Yes, Commander. Ilara stood and faced her crew. Their faces showed fear, shock, and grief, but also determination. We may be the only ship to escape Neptune with this information, she told them. What we've learned could be crucial for Earth's defense. The Voidborn struck first, without warning or mercy, but they'll soon discover that humanity isn't so easily exterminated. As the Athena raced toward Earth, carrying its precious cargo of data and survivors, Neptune Station burned behind them, and the Voidborn fleet prepared for their next target. Dr. Aisha Okafor adjusted her glasses as she studied the three-dimensional holographic projection floating above the conference table. The room was deep underground in what had been a nuclear bunker during the Cold War, now repurposed as Earth Defense Command's primary strategic center. 20 of Earth's highest-ranking military, scientific, and political leaders sat around the table, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of the hologram, showing the void-born attack patterns. "They're methodical," Dr. Okafor said, gesturing to the display with a laser pointer. "Each attack follows the same pattern. First, they target communication arrays, then power generators, then defense systems, finally civilian centers. No communication attempts, no prisoners." The hologram showed the same sequence playing out across Mars Colony, Neptune Station, Lunar Base, and 7 other human outposts. In each case, the time between the first appearance of void-born ships and complete destruction was less than 8 hours. Admiral Victor Hernandez, the newly appointed Supreme Commander of Earth's Unified Defense Forces, scowled as he studied the data. His weathered face betrayed no fear, only calculation. "Why?" he asked bluntly. "What do they want?" "Preemptive elimination," said Commander Ilara Chen. She had been promoted after bringing the Athena back to Earth with its crucial intelligence. She pointed to a separate display, showing the partially decoded void-born transmissions. "They see our potential. They fear what we might become." The meeting room fell silent as the implication sank in. Earth's remaining colonies had gone dark, one by one over the past 2 weeks. Now, long-range sensors had detected a massive void-born fleet approaching Earth, arrival estimated in less than 36 hours. "Commander Chen," said President Isabella Wang, her voice steady despite the dark circles under her eyes, "you've had more direct experience with these aliens than anyone else in this room. What are we facing?" Ilara stood and took control of the holographic display. The image shifted to show detailed scans of the void-born vessels captured by the Athena. "Their technology is approximately 50 years ahead of ours," she explained. "Their weapons are plasma-based, capable of piercing our strongest shields. Their hulls absorb most scanning technology, making them difficult to track. But they're not invincible." She zoomed in on a particular section of one of the alien ships. Dr. Okafor's team discovered this while analyzing our sensor data. Their ships have a vulnerability near their propulsion systems. A concentrated attack here, she highlighted a junction point, could potentially disable their engines. Dr. Okafor stood up beside her. "We've also made progress understanding their biology from tissue samples recovered from debris near Neptune." She pulled up a new hologram showing microscopic structures. The void-born appear to be silicon-based life forms, not carbon-based like humans. They require different atmospheric conditions and temperatures than we do. "How does that help us?" asked Admiral Hernandez. "It explains their behavior," Dr. Okafor continued. "Silicon-based life evolves much slower than carbon-based life. The void-born civilization is likely millions of years old but changes very slowly. Our rapid technological development from radio to interstellar travel in less than 200 years would seem unnatural and threatening to them. So they decided to wipe us out before we could challenge them," said Defense Minister Zhang, her voice tight with anger. "Yes," Dr. Okafor confirmed, "but their biology also gives us potential advantages. Their neural systems operate differently from ours. They process information more thoroughly but much slower. They may have difficulty adapting to rapid changes in battle conditions." Lieutenant Sophia Kim, who had been brought into the meeting as the Athena's navigation officer, raised her hand hesitantly. "During our escape from Neptune, they seemed confused when we jumped to FTL inside the planet's gravity well. Their tactics were perfect until we did something unpredictable." Ilara nodded. "That's consistent with what we're learning about them. They're methodical, precise, and overwhelming, but not adaptable." Admiral Hernandez stood and approached the holographic display. "Then we need to be unpredictable. Hit them in ways they won't expect." He turned to the assembled leaders. "I propose Operation Stormbreaker. We evacuate population centers, move our people underground. We make Earth look defeated before the real battle begins." President Wang looked troubled. "You want to give up our cities without a fight?" "No," Madam President, Admiral Hernandez replied. I want to turn our cities into traps. We let them land, thinking we're broken. Then we hit them from below. Dr. Okafor cleared her throat. There's something else you should know. She pulled up new data on the display. Our analysis of their communication patterns suggests they operate with a hive mind structure. Individual Voidborn have limited autonomy. They depend on constant communication with their command ships. This caught everyone's attention. Ilara leaned forward. If we could disrupt that communication. Exactly, Dr. Okafor said. We've been working on a targeted electromagnetic pulse weapon that might temporarily sever their connection. It wouldn't kill them, but it could disorient them. For the first time in days, a glimmer of hope appeared in the room. Admiral Hernandez began outlining tactical applications while President Wong conferred with her advisors. Ilara walked over to the side of the room where a separate display showed the global situation. Massive evacuation efforts were underway in every major city, millions of people streaming into underground shelters and rural areas. The casualty estimates for the coming attack were staggering, even in the best-case scenario. Dr. Okafor joined her by the display. You don't look convinced, she said quietly. I watched Neptune Station die, Ilara replied. 600 people gone in minutes. Mars colony was 3 million. Earth has 11 billion. We know more now, Dr. Okafor said. We have advantages they don't expect. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert. The room's main display changed to show a live feed from lunar orbit. The first wave of the Voidborn fleet had arrived early, their dark ships emerging from FTL travel in perfect formation. They're targeting lunar base first, announced the Orbital Defense Coordinator. Exactly the same pattern as the outer colonies, Ilara observed grimly. Everyone watched in grim silence as the alien ships began their methodical destruction of humanity's lunar outpost. The defense batteries on the moon fired back, but their weapons barely damaged the Voidborn ships. Lunar base has 800 personnel, someone whispered. Admiral Hernandez turned to the room. We have less time than we thought. Implementation of Operation Stormbreaker begins immediately. All military assets to fallback positions. Civilian evacuation is now mandatory. As the leaders dispersed to their various commands, Dr. Okafor pulled Ilara aside. I need your help with something, she said urgently. The tissue samples we recovered. I think there's more we can do with them. Something the Voidborn won't expect. What do you need? Ilara asked. Access to the biological research facility in Geneva. Ilara stared at her. Those facilities were shuttered after the pandemic accords. Officially, yes, Dr. Okafor said quietly. But they still exist, and right now we need every option on the table. Before Ilara could respond, another alert sounded. The tactical display updated to show new Voidborn ships appearing, not near the moon, but in Earth's orbit directly. They're splitting their forces, Admiral Hernandez announced. Multiple entry vectors detected. They're going to hit several continents simultaneously. President Wong stood at the center of the chaos, her face resolute. This is no longer about winning, she said. This is about survival. Implement the Phoenix Protocol. A hushed murmur ran through the room. The Phoenix Protocol was a last resort measure involving the activation of experimental AI defense systems that had been deemed too unpredictable for regular use. Madam President, the science minister protested. Those systems haven't been fully tested. The ethical constraints are a luxury we can no longer afford, President Wong finished firmly. Admiral Hernandez, you have full authority. Dr. Okafor, Commander Chen, whatever you're planning, you have my authorization. Humanity ends today unless we try everything. As the room erupted into urgent activity, Ilara looked back at the display showing the Voidborn ships entering Earth's atmosphere. She thought of Neptune Station, of Mars colony, of all the millions already lost. They struck first, she said quietly to Dr. Okafor. But they have no idea what they've awakened. Operation Starfall. The sky above New Delhi burned red with atmospheric entry trails as void-borne dropships descended. From her position at the forward command post in the Himalayan foothills, Commander Ilara Chen tracked their approach through high-powered binoculars. The alien vessels cut through the clouds like dark knives, their hulls absorbing the sunlight rather than reflecting it. 15 dropships on approach vector, she reported into her tactical comm. Estimated landing zones match our predictions. Government district, technological sector, and the spaceport. Behind her, the remnants of the Indo-Pacific Defense Coalition prepared their experimental weapons. The soldiers moved with quiet efficiency, their faces set with grim determination. These men and women had already witnessed the destruction of Jakarta and Manila. New Delhi would not fall so easily. "Commander Chen, come in." Admiral Hernandez's voice came through the secure channel. The Voidborn have begun simultaneous landing operations in 23 major cities worldwide. New York, Moscow, Beijing, London, all reporting the same attack pattern. Ilara watched as the first dropship stabilized above the New Delhi skyline. A bright blue beam shot downward, vaporizing a section of buildings to clear a landing zone. "What about the counterattack in orbit?" she asked. "Failed," Admiral Hernandez replied, his voice tight but controlled. "Our remaining orbital platforms have been neutralized. The lunar defense grid is offline. We're on our own." On the mountain ridge, Lieutenant Sophia Kim approached, carrying a secure tablet. "Commander, Defense Command reports the Voidborn ground forces are deploying in standard formation, just like Mars Colony and the other outposts. They're not adapting to our preparations." Ilara nodded. This confirmed Dr. Okafor's theory about Voidborn behavior patterns. They were technologically superior but inflexible, following the same successful strategy that had worked on humanity's unprepared colonies. "And Dr. Okafor's special project?" she asked. "Still untested," Sophia replied. "She says she needs more time." Ilara watched as the first wave of Voidborn ground troops emerged from their landed ships. The aliens moved with mechanical precision, their armored forms standing nearly 3 meters tall. Their weapons began systematically destroying infrastructure, power stations, communication towers, transportation hubs, exactly as they had done on Mars and Neptune. "We don't have more time," she said, making a decision. "Contact Admiral Hernandez. Tell him we're initiating Operation Stormbreaker in New Delhi." Sophia's eyes widened. But Dr. Okafor's countermeasure isn't ready, and the evacuation of the eastern districts is only at 78%. "The Voidborn won't wait for us to be ready, Lieutenant." Ilara checked her own weapon, a prototype pulse rifle designed to penetrate Voidborn armor. "Transmit the order." In the underground presidential bunker beneath Geneva, President Isabella Wang received the message from Commander Chen's unit. Around her, government officials and military commanders monitored the worsening situation across the globe. The large display screen showed Voidborn ships landing on every continent. Defense Minister Zhang looked up from his station. "Madam President, Commander Chen is right. If we wait any longer, we'll lose our opportunity. The Voidborn are following their standard protocol. They don't expect a coordinated counterattack." President Wang studied the tactical display. Humanity had already lost over 20 million people in the initial attacks on the colonies and orbital stations. Earth's conventional military forces were proving ineffective against the alien technology. Their only advantage was the element of surprise, the unconventional tactics they had prepared based on Commander Chen and Dr. Okafor's analysis of Voidborn behavior. She made her decision. "Activate Protocol Phoenix," ordered President Wang, her face grim in the bunker's harsh light. The defense minister entered his authorization code, followed by the science minister, and finally President Wang herself. A new system came online, its interface different from the standard military networks. Across the globe, dormant military AI systems awakened, systems deemed too dangerous in peacetime. These were not the limited, carefully controlled AIs used in everyday life. These were fully autonomous combat systems designed to think creatively, adapt instantly, and fight without the ethical constraints that limited human soldiers. In New Delhi, Commander Chen's tactical display suddenly illuminated with new information as the Phoenix system linked with her unit. "All units, prepare for synchronized attack," she ordered. "Remember your training. The Voidborn expect us to defend conventionally. They don't expect us to have studied their patterns." On her signal, the hidden defensive positions around New Delhi activated simultaneously, not the obvious military installations, which the Voidborn had already targeted, but concealed weapon systems embedded in civilian infrastructure, office buildings, subway stations, even hidden beneath public parks. The Voidborn ground forces, moving in their predictable pattern, suddenly found themselves under attack from unexpected directions. Their formation, perfect for countering conventional military responses, left them vulnerable to the asymmetric tactics designed by the Phoenix Eye. Similar scenarios played out in cities worldwide as humanity executed its desperate strategy. Rather than futilely defending against superior technology, Earth's forces struck at the specific vulnerabilities identified by Dr. Okafor's research, targeting the Voidborn communication nodes, using electromagnetic pulses to disrupt their hive-mind coordination. In the chaos of the counterattack, Commander Chen led a specialized team toward a specific objective. One of the Voidborn dropships had been damaged by the hidden defense systems and made an emergency landing near the Yamuna River. "This is our opportunity," she told her team as they approached the crashed alien vessel. "Dr. Okafor needs intact technology and biological samples. This may be our only chance." The entry point was a rupture in the hull, still glowing hot from whatever had damaged it. The team's cooling foam created a passable entrance, and Commander Chen led them inside. "Atmosphere readings normal," reported Sergeant Devi, the team's technical specialist, "but the interior temperature is nearly 42 degrees Celsius." "They like it hot," Commander Chen reminded them. "Remember your training. Stay together, secure the objective, and get out. We have 12 minutes before their retrieval protocols bring reinforcements." The interior of the Voidborn ship was unlike anything human engineers would have designed. The corridors curved in strange angles, and the surfaces seemed to pulse with an internal energy. 3 Voidborn crew members lay dead near the control room, their silicon-based biology already crystallizing as their internal systems shut down. "Find anything we can use," she ordered as the team spread out to secure samples and technology. Sergeant Devi worked quickly to extract the ship's navigation system while medics carefully collected biological samples. Commander Chen herself downloaded data from what appeared to be the main computer core, using interface technology developed from the Athena's sensor readings. "Commander, you need to see this," called Lieutenant Sophia from what seemed to be the ship's bridge. She was pointing to a display showing Earth from orbit, with multiple Voidborn ships highlighted. Ilara studied the alien symbols, recognizing patterns from her time analyzing their communications. "They're confused," she realized. "The Phoenix Eye is forcing them to adapt to unexpected tactics, and they don't know how to respond." A sudden vibration ran through the ship. "Retrieval protocol initiated," warned Sergeant Devi. "We need to move now." The team gathered their precious cargo and retreated from the vessel just as more Voidborn ships appeared overhead. As they reached the extraction point, Commander Chen looked back to see the damaged ship being lifted away by some kind of energy beam. "Did we get everything Dr. Okafor needed?" she asked Lieutenant Sophia. "Everything and more," Sophia confirmed, securing the sample container. "If the patterns in their navigation system are what I think they are, we may have just found the location of their homeworld." 6 months later, as Earth continued to burn, the Voidborn fleet unexpectedly withdrew. In command centers around the world, military leaders watched in disbelief as the alien ships broke orbit and disappeared into FTL jumps. In the presidential bunker, Commander Chen delivered the samples and data to Dr. Okafor, who immediately began analysis with her team. "Why did they leave?" President Wang asked the assembled leaders. "We hurt them, but we didn't defeat them." Dr. Okafor looked up from her preliminary analysis. The Phoenix Eye forced them to confront something they've never experienced before, an inferior technological civilization that could adapt faster than they could. Their strategic programming couldn't handle the contradiction, so they retreated to regroup. They'll be back with new tactics, Admiral Hernandez concluded. Yes, Dr. Okafor agreed. But now we have this. She held up a data crystal containing the information from the Voidborn ship, their homeworld coordinates, their biological weaknesses, and time to prepare. Commander Chen looked at the tactical display, showing the departing Voidborn fleet. How much time? Based on their FTL capabilities and the distance to their core systems, Dr. Okafor calculated perhaps 2 years before they can mount another full-scale invasion. President Wang stood, surveying the room of exhausted but determined leaders. Then we have 2 years to make sure humanity is ready when they return. 2 years to build a force that will make them regret ever striking first. Outside, the sky above New Delhi was finally clear of alien ships, though smoke still rose from the damaged districts. Earth had suffered terrible losses, but humanity had survived its first encounter with the Voidborn. And now they had a fighting chance. 18 months passed. Humanity rebuilt. The scars of the Voidborn attack remained visible across Earth's surface. The glass plains where cities once stood, the crater lakes formed by orbital bombardment. But around these wounds, new structures rose. Not the gleaming skyscrapers and sprawling suburbs of the pre-war era, but hardened facilities, manufacturing complexes, and defense installations. Admiral Ilara Chen stood at the viewport of Orbital Command Station Sentinel, watching as another new warship emerged from the construction yards in lunar orbit. Unlike the utilitarian vessels of Earth's pre-war fleet, this ship was asymmetrical, with strange geometries that somehow unsettled the human eye. "Beautiful, isn't she?" said Sophia Kim, now a captain and Chen's executive officer. Voidkiller-class destroyer. The 60th to launch this month. Admiral Chen nodded. I still can't quite believe we built all this in less than 2 years. Behind them, Dr. Okafor entered the observation deck. Humanity is remarkably adaptable when faced with extinction, she said. The Voidborn never anticipated our response capacity. The 3 women stood in silence, watching the new fleet assemble. Each ship incorporated Voidborn technology reverse-engineered from the captured dropship, but modified with human innovations. Most importantly, they carried Dr. Okafor's newest creation, a biological weapon specifically designed to target the Voidborn's silicon-based physiology. The early warning beacons at Pluto's orbit have detected FTL signatures, Dr. Okafor said quietly. The Voidborn are returning, earlier than we predicted. Admiral Chen's face hardened. How many ships? Over 300. 3 times the size of their previous fleet. Captain Kim inhaled sharply, but Admiral Chen remained calm. They still expect to find a wounded planet, struggling to recover, she said. They have no idea what's waiting for them. She turned to face her companions. Send the alert to all commands. Initiate Operation Starfall. Within hours, Earth's new fleet, over 500 ships strong, moved into position. Millions of soldiers prepared for battle, equipped with weapons specifically designed to exploit Voidborn weaknesses. The Phoenix Eye ran final simulations, adjusting humanity's battle plans to ensure maximum unpredictability. When the Voidborn fleet emerged from FTL near Mars, they didn't encounter a broken, demoralized resistance. Instead, they faced the full fury of a unified humanity, transformed, enhanced, and utterly determined to survive. The battle raged for 3 days. The Voidborn, despite their superior technology, couldn't adapt to humanity's constantly shifting tactics. The Phoenix Eye anticipated their every move, countering their standard patterns with chaotic, unpredictable responses. Earth's new weapons tore through their supposedly impenetrable hulls. Dr. Okafor's biological agent caused their crews to crystallize in their command chairs. By the 4th day, the remaining Voidborn ships attempted to retreat, But humanity was no longer interested in merely defending. Admiral Chen gave the order, and Earth's fleet pursued the aliens through their FTL corridors, following the navigation data they had captured months before. For the first time in their million-year history, the Voidborn experienced an attack on their home systems. Humanity, the primitive species they had tried to exterminate, now brought war to their doorstep. Their hierarchical society, unprepared for such an unprecedented reversal, fell into chaos. Within a month, the Voidborn Empire, spanning 12 star systems, surrendered unconditionally. In the Great Hall of what had once been the Voidborn High Command, Admiral Chen stood before the alien leaders as they signed the Treaty of Sol. The terms were strict but not vindictive. Immediate cessation of all hostilities, technological reparations, and a buffer zone between Voidborn and human space. Most importantly, the treaty established the Galactic Concord, an agreement that no spacefaring species would ever again attack another without provocation. As Admiral Chen transmitted the news of victory back to Earth, Dr. Okafor joined her on the observation deck of the UES Athena, named after the research vessel that had started it all. "Do you think they understand what happened?" Dr. Okafor asked, watching the crystalline cities of the Voidborn homeworld below them. "Do they comprehend how they miscalculated?" Admiral Chen shook her head. "I'm not sure they can. Their evolutionary path led them to value stability and predictability above all else. They couldn't conceive of a species that thrives on adaptation and chaos. Their first mistake," Captain Kim added as she joined them, "was attacking without trying to understand us. And their last mistake," Admiral Chen finished, "was giving us time to respond." As the Athena turned toward home, Earth's fleet assembled in formation around them. Humanity had not only survived but emerged stronger than before, united, technologically advanced, and now known throughout the galaxy as a species that should never be underestimated. They had struck first, but humanity's retaliation had been unstoppable.